And welcome back. Yours truly, Anthony Parker of Midnight at the Oasis. Wondering why I'm just like this? It's been a long day. You ever had those days where it seems like they just don't end? Well, this one's about the end. Welcome to the show. I'm Anthony Parker Alexander, Midnight at the Oasis, where we give the news of the day and we get you ready for tomorrow. So if you've been watching the show, we thank you for watching it. We're going to keep this on. We try to do this every night. We've only been on recently started, but we're always on at this time. So tell your friends, hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe button. Come on to Midnight at the Oasis. This show is put together in part by Keeping It Honest. Yours truly, Anthony Parker. That's our one show where we do shorts, 5 seconds, to long forms, maybe going up to 3 hours. But we do entertainment, we do politics, we do in-depth stories. Thank you for supporting us. Speaking of supporting us, go to our Patreon page. Our Patreon page is kind of like a PBS, as I always say. You type in patreon.com, go to Keeping It Honest, and you get 3 tiers. And these tiers are any particular funds you'd like to contribute for the show. You pick whichever one you want. That way, it shows us that you've stepped it up even more and said, hey, what? Anthony, I'm invested with the show like you. You see all the information we do. Get on my page and look at some of the shows that we've talked about. We've had some famous people on there. We've had some in-depth studies. We've had some interesting kind of Parker twist shows. And when I say Parker twist, is we put the spin on the news, but we make you think. And we try to give the left side right here, try to give the right side. And at the end of the day, we hope you decide, but no matter what, it's the truth. If you want to contact me, telephone number is 216-702-3718, meaning you can text me or leave a voicemail. This isn't a live call-in show. Not yet, but you just never know. Hey, and that's where the Patreon page comes in. We could potentially be doing a live call-in show. Like the old days where they used to do late night shows and they would take calls. And that would be so cool. You get to hear people from across not just your city or state, but across the whole country. And with the internet now, you can have people across the whole world calling you. But if you want to leave me a message, that number is 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. Email address is parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. I do have X. And then, for all the money that Elon has put into marketing stuff, why do we always have to say X, formerly Twitter? After a while, you got to get off that formally. You think Pepsi, new Pepsi, okay? I think UPN was WB way back when, TV stations. But we always call it X, formerly Twitter. Why can't we just call it X? So I've got an account right there. And you think about this again, they were doing an interview with Donald Trump, and he had some problems. So a lot of people that subscribed weren't able to catch it. But it just shows you, as good as technology is, it's very bad too. I still believe in the papers that you need papers because your computer could go down. Your computer go down. A couple of weeks ago, computers went down. Nobody could do anything because we invest so much in computers. But we still need that human touch. So we talked about recently the background of Tim Wise, his military background. And if he was a command sergeant major, he said he was. He put on his papers he was. He's gone out there and said he was. But he retired, he retired as a master sergeant. So it's interesting now. I was getting a little information on him. I know we've been talking about him a lot. And just dropped my pen. They've been changing everything about the guy as far as how he retired and everything else. But he was a governor for 2 terms. And nobody got that straight then. What kind of vexing is this about? And then they found out, too, that one of his, I guess, friends or people that he knows is a fan of Hitler. And a lot of people saying, okay, did you guys really vex Tim Wise? Because it seems like there are things that people just don't know about him. And when you're vexing, you got to make sure that there's nothing in your background that could hurt you. Because a lot of people say, wow, you know what? Maybe we should have had Shapiro. But because he was Jewish, we didn't really want to stir up anything. But isn't that racist too? But then, DEI, diversity, exclusion. I can't remember what the E means now. But when people ask, is Kamala Harris a DEI hire? Was Tim Walz a DEI hire? And, you go back to people back in the 70s, African Americans, when they were getting these jobs because of their blackness. Should we hold positions open for people because they meet a certain ratio? If you have a company and you're trying to get some diversity, are you hiring those people who have diversity compared to other people that don't? So if me and a white guy go to Fox, and the white guy is way more talented than me, but you're trying to pull in a black audience, would you hire me? I don't know, maybe, dressed like this or maybe not dressed like this. What would be the one thing that you'd have to hire me for? You don't want to be hired because of your nationality and your race. But if you are hired on that, then maybe after you get that job, then you can meet the qualifications that you were supposed to meet. But then what about that person that didn't get that job? Are we more susceptible to race employment now than we were back in the 70s? How do you feel about that? Let me know. So we're going to talk a little bit about Tim Wise. We're going to talk about J.D. Vance's military background. A lot of people don't know about it too much. We just know he was in the military. And we're going to see if his stacks up to Wise's. So Weiss was in the military 24 years, but he's been taking flack of how he left. So we're going to talk about that. Tulsi Gabbard. Remember this lady? She ran for president, and I think it was 2020. And she was at the debate table for the Democrat Party to see who they would pick to run for president in the Democrat Party. And she slammed Kamala Harris. She had her, like Kamala said, shush, I'm talking. Gabby said, no, girl, I'm talking. And this is your record, okay, as DA. And she just slammed her. So after she slammed her, it was a twofold effect. Gabby never got as far, and she was supposedly the person that probably would have been a good VP. Military lady, been around for years, and she was making waves. But she was going up against Kamala Harris. And the powers that be, as I'm learning this, they might have wanted her. And the funny thing is, when she ran, I wanted her to win. I wanted her to go up against Trump. Because there was something about her. She was smart. I liked some of her views. And she said what hurt her. She didn't say what hurt her. But when she debated Biden, and she pretty much said, I was that little girl that was on that bus. And then she just kept reaming him because he had something to do with the segregation. So she reamed him. And after that, her polls went down. She was one of the first ones, if not the first one, to drop out the race. She couldn't find any money. She wasn't winning anything, and she dropped out. And I still say that Senator Claiborne, um, South Carolina, made a deal. He said, look, I'll help you get out your basement, win South Carolina, and start winning, period. But you have to do something for me. I want a black person to be a running mate, and preferably a lady. So again, Biden won South Carolina. Bam, he brings Kamala Harris. I would have liked Susan Rice and some other people who have been in the White House and just know foreign affairs, and not just somebody with just a DA. But then, you had Pete Buttigieg, who was mayor, okay, running for president. So you had all these interesting cast of characters. So some people said that in the White House, Jill Biden never forgave Kamala for how she treated her husband on that debate. I mean, that could be true, but they won. So when Gabby went up with Kamala, she went up against her and they went face to face. She tore her up. Kamala couldn't say nothing. And after that, Gabby's career was messed up. She was pretty much independent, went on Fox News for a while. And now, after she said something on Fox, that next day, found out the government has been after her. But she's been in the military. You're going to hear her heartfelt story of why, if you put yourself out there and you tick off some people, that they're going to cut off your hand. So we got that story coming up too. And Russia and Ukraine. Interesting. Russia and Ukraine. So Russia has invaded Ukraine. They've been over there for years. We've been sending them money. A lot of people in America say, why are we sending these countries money? We need to take care of our own. And they're still fighting. So not too long ago, Trump talked to the Ukraine president and kind of got him, like, okay, he's always said, I can get this job between these two people to stop fighting within a day. So the funny thing is, he talks to the Ukraine president. Next thing you know, Putin and the Ukraine president are talking maybe a ceasefire for a second. Wow, we don't know if that had anything to do with Trump or not. So they talk about a ceasefire because Russia's a big dog. And Ukraine's this little dog. But Ukraine is still hanging in there, which has been surprising everybody. So they talk peace. And the next thing you know, booyah, Ukraine goes to Russia and starts going after Russia. So now Putin is ticked off. He's like, no more peace. I'm done. I just don't want all of Ukraine. I mean, a little Ukraine. I want all of it. I want it destroyed. I've been watching some streaming shows, and some people say a few years from now, you'll be looking at TV, and they will say, they won't say that, God bless me, but they will say, this is where Ukraine was. Real quick, let's say a prayer as we do at the top of our show. We'll get back to our stories. Dear God, we pray that everybody has a great evening and everybody has a great day. And if they get one blessing, make that blessing count. Amen. At the top of the show, we usually do our prayers, so we were going into this so quick. How many people, how many shows where they do prayers and they're not a spiritual show, but they can talk anything and everything. But I'm a show with spiritual background. We'll think of, what you want to call it. You're watching Midnight at the Oasis. So again, Ukraine and Russia, you think about this, man, it's like you got a guy that's been bullying you in school. And they're always punching you in the arm every time they see you. And then you say, that is like hurting so much. Can you stop punching me? Ow. And then, the guy says, you know what, since you came at me and you talked, I'm going to consider to stop punching you. So big guy stops punching me in my arm 2 days in a row. I'm like, wow, this is good. So then the third day, I go up to the guy. He says hi. I say hi. And I punch him in the stomach and knock him down and then kick him. So then the big guy gets up and says, why did you do that? We were stopped fighting for a minute. And then you walk away. So the big guy says, you know what? I was giving him a pass. Now I'm going to tear him up. So that's Putin now. So some people are saying that NATO, all the countries, they secretly help supply Ukraine with some funds and some artillery to go after Russia. Because why would they stop the fighting? The world pretty much wants Russia gone, I think. Tell me if I'm wrong. So what better way than supply a guy who's smaller and secretly giving him stuff to go after the big country? We didn't have all these wars. We've got so many wars going on. And some people say, at least with Trump, we didn't have any wars, really. Men didn't go to war. So is any of this going to be World War III? You've got China. Okay? You've got Iran. And if they want to be a partner with Russia, which one would Russia take? Would they take China? That's a crazy kind of country at times. Or would they take Iran? That's a very hated country. Which one would Russia take to say, hey, you know what? To be a world leader bigger, we're going to get another partner. Thank God they haven't done that yet. But if wars persist as they do, who knows? And I never knew why until not too long ago, a couple of years back, why people say in church, pray for the leaders. Because if you don't pray for the leaders, what kind of world are we going to have? A kind of world that's possibly could go to World War III. And what happens if that's involved? Would it affect America? You don't think it will? And we side with some other countries and we give things to other people? I can just drop. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Think about that. Who would we be with friends? Who would we unite with if we had to defend ourselves? Or if one of our friends were getting bombed? If our friend, meaning another country, is getting bombed, how much do we have to get involved? Once we get involved with the other side that's evil, their secret or superpowered country of friends, well, they get with them. We pray none of this comes to truth, but we never know. So my thing is, why can't we all be friends in a simple world? So who's the best president for this job? Do you have Donald, who's done it before, which technically there wasn't any wars, and then he was going to people who were enemies and sitting and breaking bread with them, but yet we looked at him as an enemy. We looked at Donald Trump as an enemy, but yet he was at the table. Or do we go with Kamala, who says, I'm not going to take any of this. As long as she goes to those meetings and don't giggle, and as long as Trump goes to those meetings and don't threaten people. But which one will keep us further away from war? We have to look at the stomachs, like Trump said. Think of your stomach. Is it more hungry today than it was 4 years ago? That means you're spending money on everything else because the prices are higher and you can barely eat. Or do you think of, if we had a president to prevent war, which is the one that would stop it? So our military people won't have to go to war. And war is not a fun thing. And then some people saying that Ukraine, it was kind of dirty that they did that. They're like, well, that's not right. But then if you're in war, what is right? War is war. You got to do what you got to do, I guess, to win. And that's probably what Ukraine guy is saying. But since he did that, and he pretty much got caught, and he's admitting he did that, should we as the United States continue to give him funds? Because we could have said, dude, what are you doing? Now Russia's going to come after you more. They've got better resources. And does that mean we have to give you more money? The consequences are you either should have ceasefire or try to do a ceasefire, or let it go as it was, and I guess keep fighting, because now you made the big boy mad. And you're going to need some resources now to back up what you did. Some people think that was cowardly, like you hit him behind the back. Some people think war's war. You got to do what you got to do to win. What do you think? Get in contact with me and let me know. So, looking on my notes here. And we're also going to read some comments from some people. My little phone here, my trusty phone. People have commented. And we're going to read some because I think it's very enjoyable. It's funny on some of the things that they say. And I want you guys to be a part of it. But now, let's talk about JD Vance. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about JD Vance with Megyn Kelly. So we were fair in the one show we did Tim Weiss, and we talked a lot about him. And now we're going to talk about JD Vance, because do we know really anything about his military service? And is he taking flack for his? We're going to check it out. You're watching Midnight at the Oasis with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander.
Because I want to finish up with Wallace and then talk about Kamala for a second. Brianna Keilar, who is terrible. She's at CNN. She's another partisan hack who should have been eliminated during the Brian Stelter, Don Lemon cleanup that they did.
And she's talking about when CNN got rid of everybody. Don Lemon was one of those. Don Lemon, is an interesting broadcaster. He got off of CNN. I think he became full of himself, kind of like a diva. And they kicked him off. He went on X. He interviewed Elon Musk and asked him a lot of questions. And here I said X. I didn't say formerly known as. And I'm like, man, he's asking him these questions. And Musk, I'm not really a fan of his. He's kind of thinks he's really out there too. I mean, he's a rich guy, but he acts like he's a rich guy and can control all the media. So Lemon has asked him questions. I give Lemon credit on his show that that Elon Musk gave him. And he asked him so many questions. I think Elon didn't like it. It was his first show, and it also became his last. So now Lemon does a show on streaming, and he does a pretty good show. He's still trying to get, he's from the broadcasting field, and he's still trying to find his way. So if you ever watch the show, let me know what you think about it. But to get to the JD Vance story, we still have to go through the Tim Walsh story.
But she managed to hold on. And she decides the real story here is JD Vance's military service. Listen.
I also think that JD Vance as a messenger on this may be an imperfect messenger, because we have, as you introduced him, as a combat correspondent, which was what his title was. But when you dig a little deeper into that, he was a public affairs specialist, someone who did not see combat, which certainly the title combat correspondent kind of gives you a different impression.
So he was a combat correspondent. He was a combat correspondent. And I'm over here trying to see where exactly I'm at here. So he was a combat correspondent, which meant he didn't even go and do anything in the war zone. But that was okay. But we were thinking, he was out there shooting and everything with people. So you look at these two guys that are military guys, and either one of them really was in the military shooting people. Does it dilute what they did? I think not. But as long as they don't push, I was a military guy, and I did this and I did that. So that's the only thing. So I'm trying to get back on this. And of
Alex,
course,
thank you so much for coming in.
I can't. So we're going to go back to the story in a minute. So before we go back to that, I want to talk about Tulsi Gabbard. And we're going to go to a site that gives the story about her, which is an amazing story. I mean, I'm like, wow. So she's a lady, she will always tell people she's fought for her country and she's proud of it. And so now she's taking some hits because she made a comment on this lady's show, who I watch her too. I try to make sure that I watch all kinds of shows so I can, also let you guys know what it's about. Lauren Ingram, she's on Fox, and she has a show called The Ingram Factor or something like that. And I like how she mixes in her video with her commentary. So she was able to have Tulsi on here. And as you look at the title, whistleblowers say Tulsi surveyed by government. You get another beat of what happens if you talk too much. Don't think about conspiracies being conspiracies. Think about them as conspiracies. They could be true. So she's going to tell her story of what happened. And it's an amazing story, another amazing story. You're watching Midnight at the Oasis with yours truly, Anthony Parker Alexander.
So what exactly did Tulsi Gabbard do to get added to the terror watch list? It came the day after she criticized the Biden administration right here on The Angle.
Our foreign policy decisions are being made by unelected people in the military-industrial complex who are profiting from us being in a constant state of war, and the national security state that has more power to undermine our freedoms and liberties when we are in a state of war.
So she's not a fan of Kamala Harris. Like I said, she tore apart a couple years ago. Both of them were trying to run for president. She looked at her past. She grilled. Well, she didn't even grill. She just tore her apart. So if you have a chance, look up some clips with Tulsi Gabbard and Kamala Harris. And all Kamala could do was shh. So Tulsi's been a strong proponent of fighting for America. And at one point you thought she would be a perfect VP. I'm surprised nobody's picked her. But because she made the Democrats mad, probably because how she went after Kamala, she was toast. So she went on Fox, had a show for a while, and now she's out again speaking. And the day after she speaks on this lady's show, the government comes after her. And she's in the military.
Kamala Harris does not have the strength to stand up to the military-industrial complex.
Okay, that's wild. Joining me now, Tulsi Gabbard, former U.S. Congresswoman, Fox News contributor. Tulsi, now you serve this country in uniform, even getting deployed to Iraq. Thank you for going, unlike Tim Walz. And now you're being surveilled. I mean, it's a form of surveillance or hassling and intrusion upon your freedom to move by the government. What is this? I mean, I didn't believe it really when I first heard about it. I said, oh, that can't be. But how does this make you feel?
And if you're a fan of Gabbard, get in contact with me. Let me know how you feel about this story.
Laura, this is a clear act of political retaliation. There's no other way to put it. You laid out the sequence of events the very next day after my conversation with you on the air, warning the American people about how dangerous a Kamala Harris presidency would be. I was placed on this domestic terror watch list, which is called the Quiet Skies list under the Department of Homeland Security. The clear pain and real visceral hurt that comes from this is, as you mentioned, like many Americans, I enlisted because of the terrorist attacks on 9/11 to go after the Islamist terrorists who attacked us on that day, and to now have my own government now turn around and put me on a domestic terror watch list. It hits to the core and is the ultimate sense of betrayal. But we look at why they are doing this.
So how do you feel about that? So this lady spent some time in the military. to this person. And because she made some comments about Harris's regime if she becomes president, now she's put on the terrorist watch.
It has a chilling effect. It sends a warning both to me and to anyone else who even thinks about daring to criticize our own government, which is a guaranteed protected right under the First Amendment.
Yeah.
That we will be subject to a violation of our Fourth Amendment right to privacy through this kind of surveillance. And that's the biggest stress that's been caused by this entire situation, Laura, is now forever. I will always be looking over my shoulder, wondering if and how our government in any of these different agencies is surveilling me, watching me. Are they reading my text messages? Are they listening to my phone calls?
Yeah.
So that's crazy because for the rest of her life, I mean, how do you get off the terrorist watch? And why did she get on it? How long has she been on it? Does she fear for her life? Can she say anything and everything? We'll be watching her in upcoming shows all over, streaming and regular TV to see if she's changed or if they got to her and she's quiet.
Yeah, I was going to say yes, yes, and yes. That's what I would guess, at least. Now, in a letter from whistleblower attorney Tristan Levitt, he writes that the special mission coverage in Ms. Gabbard's case reportedly involves 2 explosive detection canine teams, 1 transportation security analyst and explosives, 1 plainclothes TSA supervisor, and 3 federal air marshals on every flight Ms. Gabbard boards.
So you look at that. So all these people are going to be with her or around her. Wow. 1 plainclothes TSI supervisor, 3 federal air marshals on every flight she boards. 3. So that's 3 people there. And the plainclothesman is 4. And then you have the other ones with the dogs. So everywhere she goes on a plane, they're going to be following her. But for what exactly? Why is she on this terrorist watch?
I mean, I'm not laughing, Tulsi, because this is literally like the Soviet Union, China today, North Korea, any totalitarian regime. But Donald Trump's the totalitarian, right? He's the dictator in waiting. Okay.
Yeah, this is just, and this is what we know about, and we know about it because of these brave whistleblowers from the Air Marshal Service who are coming forward. What I'm questioning is what are the things that are happening in our government that I don't know about? How long have they been surveilling me? This is just a recent occurrence. I would not be surprised to know that there are other government agencies who are also being weaponized against political opponents, those who dare to challenge this regime, the Biden-Harris administration.
But is it just the Biden-Harris administration? Some people said Trump could have did it. Some people said Obama could have did it. Some people say Clinton could have did it. Some people still looking at the Clinton power, that they're involved in everything that's going on. The Obama power, that they're involved with everything that's going on. If you say certain things against these people, will they try to come after you in some form or fashion? That reminds me of a movie. I think Will Smith was in it and Gene Hackman. I can't remember the name of it. But your freedom of speech, and think about this, even as a reporter or an advocate or an activist politically in your community, should you worry about this? Because people don't like people that are doing their own things and speaking out. I can tell you that, okay? Even doing streaming. You can stream, but technically, YouTube could just say we're taking everything off, and then, what are you doing? You're back out in the streets as like in the old days. Streaming is giving you the capability of to tell your story and tell other people's stories in ways that the regular media isn't. So when you're watching the regular media, there are some stories that they're not getting in depth. Some of it could be minutes. Some of it could be because it's not a ratings thing. It's not bringing in the people. A lot of people go to streaming because it's a passion. They can make money and they get to tell the stories the way that they want to do. I'm just keeping it honest.
And that's really what it comes down to, and why they have to be stopped. We are guaranteed the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I cannot be free. And you pointed to this. Yes, exactly. I cannot be free so long as my government is breathing down my neck and watching my every move.
Well, we got to go, but we're going to be following this closely, demanding that this be completely withdrawn, and whoever is responsible for this decision, and there's one person who made the decision, should be fired immediately. But this should never, ever happen in the United States of America.
To anyone.
Tulsi, no, to anybody. But I think this is the tip of the iceberg, and I know Donald Trump is not surprised by any of this.
Tulsi Gabbard. Wow. So what do you think? Is that an interesting story? That is an interesting story. We'll have to follow up on that. Boy, I would love to get her on my show. Wow. So we had technical difficulties with the JD Vance. So we have to come back to that another time. I apologize for that. But like I said, technology is technology. So Tulsi Gabbard, what did you think? How many people you think have disappeared? I'm not saying disappeared like you don't see them because they're dead, but have disappeared in the public eye because, one, speaking out as a public official or reporter, journalist, in other countries, a lot of these journalists that do stories, it's a life-threatening deal. We take for granted reporters, but thank God we're not in a country where if you say something, it might be the last thing you say as a reporter. Or you say something as a politician, it might be the last thing you say. We're in a country of democracy. People ask me, well, what is democracy? Democracy to me is freedom of speech and being able to say what you need to say to get the truth out there. But then the other hand, freedom of speech is also hearing things that you may not like to hear. So I'm going to get on some of my comments right now. And let me see if I can pull this up. I did a clip about fathers not being there. And I got this message from Teresa. And Candace Owens did a comment about father's absence and the difference that they make, and I liked it. So I put it out there. So this is the comment that I got. This is from Teresa. She's talking Jim Crow. I'm 70. Families fled north, white housing projects because 50-50 with black families. Then the projects became mostly black and Hispanic people. Social workers would pop up on you, looking under beds and in closets, looking for men's clothing and shoes. Wow, did they do that back then to see if there was a father around? Wow. If those items were found, a woman with children would lose their apartment. Wow. Men had to go, and several women. So she's saying back in the 70s, maybe there weren't men around because women were trying to get extra money from the government to help them out because they were maybe poor. And if the government found out that there was a man there, they wouldn't give them those benefits. Wow. Okay. What do you think about that one? I'm going to give you another one real quick. Secret Service apologized. How did you feel about the Secret Service apologizing for the assassination attempt on Donald Trump? Everything was bundled. The person and the thing that hurt the most was Corey getting killed. Some people said it was conspiracy. It was a setup. I don't know. Donald Trump's ear looks fine now. How many people watched it live? Secret Service, if you saw the Secret Service, when they were around Trump, and he ducked down and then they went back up, you had the little small lady. And I'm thinking, okay, you got the small lady there, the assassin, the shooter, could have went over the small lady and got Trump in the chest, unfortunately. And then if I got somebody guarding me, I don't want a smaller person guarding me. Trump's a big guy. So why wouldn't you have big people around Trump? Okay? Nothing against them, but they couldn't really shield him. And then when Trump does this and says, stop, stop. My job as a Secret Service person, I don't listen to stop. Let's go now. My shoes, we'll get some new shoes. Stop. Not going to stop. So when he put up his hand and everything, he's so smart, he knew that was going to be a great picture forever. But the Secret Service, in spite of this assassin, in spite of everybody knowing that he was around, They got lucky. But just think what would have happened if they hadn't. The bad thing was, if assassination would have happened, how would this world be? How would this change? One, who's running for president, but two, just the world. So we thank God no matter what that Trump is still here. And we thought maybe Trump would be humbled because of that. Fine God, maybe he did. He opens up a little bit, but he's like, I'm back to normal. But in this fast news cycle, again, assassination attempt, okay? VP candidate, Republican convention, Biden drops out, Kamala runs. Kamala gets her VP. Kamala gets her open ceremony. And Waltz, controversy. And then Waltz talks. He had a solo appearance, his first one, where he's talking about what he would do as vice president. The one thing I don't like about him is he cusses too much. When did politicians start cussing and openly? If I'm bringing my kids to see you and I like you, I don't need to hear you cuss. But then I guess Trump does it too. But it seems like these guys do it a lot. You don't see Kamala do it. Okay? As a politician, should you be a role model? Because you never know who's looking at you saying, boy, I saw your speech, I loved your speech, and I want to be like you. But in this day and age, it seems like everything that was in the past doesn't matter today. Where's the integrity of people today? Hopefully you tune into my show and you find it. Midnight at the Oasis. So I'm going to read another one real quick. Another comment. And let me see. Secret Service apologies. So I put a video out, and this is the response I got from Vicky. And Vicky says, Trump should have, there we go. Trump should have never had a rally out in an open area, period. This was only outdoors because Trump has not paid for the venues or the extra costs for their police to security he has had since 2015. I don't believe you failed at all. Trump is still alive. Wow. So is this one of the reasons why he does the outdoor rallies? Because he doesn't want to pay for the inside insurance? That's an interesting thought. Is that being cheap? Because they said, look, we got to do more indoors. He's like, nope, I want to do this for the people. So do you give Trump credit because he's still doing outdoor rallies? Or do you not give him credit if you found out he was just cheap? I don't know. I, of course, like more outdoors than indoors. Let me know if you've ever been to a Trump rally. What did you think about it? I went to cover it a couple years ago, and it was very scary because you could see people, and they were very eager and anxious and a little bit angry. Make America great again. And then when people say that, what do you mean make America great again? When they said that when he first ran, how did they want to make that? I mean, African Americans, when was America great? Was it great in the Obama era? So are you saying make it great America again when Obama was president for African Americans? With Trump, when you're talking wholesome, or are you talking about the 1950s when it wasn't really that good for African Americans and other minorities? What is exactly make America great again? That's your homework. Let me know. Tweet me. I'll tell you what my tweet is sometime. But you can email me until you tweet me. But make America great again. Make America great again was when people were full of integrity and honesty, and they cared about each other. So why can't we make America great again? It takes just one. And then from there, it grows. Something to think about. So that's it. I thank you for tuning in. Midnight at the Oasis. You have any comments or questions, you can email me. It's parkerman2011 at gmail.com, parkerman2011 at gmail.com. You can also text me, leave a voice message, 216-702-3718, 216-702-3718. Tell your friends. Go to my Patreon page. Contribute. 3 tiers. Get close to our family. Okay, let's just huddle up. Let's make our show just great. As we grow, you grow. Let's take this crazy experiment and grow together as a family. Who knows? We could be doing live call ins. Never, ever disbelieve in the great capabilities that you can do and can become. Just starts with one idea. You just have to implement it. So keep your head up. Never look down. Always believe in yourself. And therein will lie your answer. Again, same time, every day, midnight at the Oasis. Remember that. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. I thank you very much. Keep your head up, never look down, always believe in yourself, and therein will lie your answer. I'm Anthony Parker Alexander. We don't just keep it simple, we don't just keep it real, we keep it honest. You're watching Midnight at the Oasis. God bless.